life. I'm Anastasia Chatzka, a fashion designer with over 20 years of experience and a sewing educator. And I'm really excited you're here to share another sewing adventure with me today. Welcome to Sewing Anastasia, and today we are going to make a heat-proof hot pad. These little hot pads are so easy to make. They make a great gift, and you can go through your cotton scrap pile and use up all your scraps because all you need is a 1/4 yard of a fabric, but not even the full length, so you just need a little chunk. And when you're done, it's going to look something like this. So cute! If you're not already a subscriber to Sewing Anastasia, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when all of the new videos come out. Also, right now I'm teaching virtual sewing lessons, so you can pick any project that you would like to work on, book your time with me through my website, and I will help you with your project from my design studio to your sewing room. So cool! And if you're in Chicago, you can totally come take a sewing class inside of my design studio. Information on all of that is going to be down below in the description. Supplies for this project are super simple. First, you're gonna need a template. I have one on my website you can download, or you could roughly make a square that's 8 by 8, or you can make that square any size you want. You're going to need some matching thread. You're going to need your snips for all those extra little threads. You're going to need a pen so we can mark where we want to quilt our potholder. You're also going to need your rotary cutter and a 1/4 yard of fabric or a scrap. So I'm going to be using a scrap, and it is at least a 1/4 of a yard wide. And the most important part, you're going to need some Thermolite. So this stuff is what's going to make your heating pad heat resistant. You can probably pick this up at your local fabric store, or you can buy it online as well. The first thing we want to do is lay out our cotton scraps and our pattern. I have 2 pieces of cotton laid out right sides together. And when I place my pattern on here, I want to make sure that one of the straight edges is parallel with the selvage on my fabric, or following the grain line if you don't have a selvage on your scrap anymore. Let's go ahead and weight that and grab your rotary cutter and let's cut it out. Now we have our 2 squares cut out of our cotton. Next is going to be cutting out the Thermolite. So I'm going to be laying out my Thermolite, and I'm going to lay out 2 layers because I want this potholder to be extra heat resistant. So I have 2 layers of Thermolite laid out. I have my pattern on the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and weight it, and let's cut it out. So I have my 2 layers of Thermolite and my 2 layers of cotton, and I am ready to sew this all together. This is gonna be the easiest potholder you have ever seen to make. You're gonna love this. Before we head over to the sewing machine, I'm gonna show you how to lay this out because it can be a little bit tricky. The layering process is going to go like this. Thermolite, Thermolite, right side of the fabric up, and then the other right side of the fabric down. So basically you've got right sides of fabric together, and then you've got 2 layers of Thermolite on the back side. Now grab your pins and let's pin our edges together. When you put the pins in, you want to make sure that the head of the pin is on the outside of your project. This way, it's really easy to take the pins out while you're sewing, and you're not trying to get in here at an awkward angle for your wrist. Now that it's all pinned up, we are ready to go sit at the sewing machine and sew this baby up. Today I'm going to be using the Husqvarna Epic 95Q. This is their brand new machine, and I'm so excited to use it. This is my first project with it. So something I love about this is it has the built-in dual feed here. So that means I don't have to switch out and put a walking foot on. So if you don't have the Epic 2 or the Epic 95Q with the dual integrated feed system, you're gonna have to put on your walking foot so that way it feeds all of these layers through the machine nice and evenly. And we're just gonna be using a straight stitch for this project. The first thing I need to keep in mind is that I need to leave an opening so that way I can turn this right side out. So I'm gonna come down first 3/8 of an inch, which is going to be my seam allowance. I'm gonna lift up my foot and turn. Once you get to the corner, make sure your needle's in the fabric, lift up your foot and turn. We want a nice crisp corner. Make sure you take your pins out before you get to them. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our fabric so that way we can come off our seam allowance and backstitch and cut. You might be wondering why I put these right angles here. So this is gonna make sure when I turn it right side out that this seam allowance where my opening is actually gonna help flip it to the inside, and it's gonna give us this nice smooth line across where the opening is, so that way when we edge stitch it, it looks perfect. Before we turn it right side out, we need to go ahead and clip the corners. So grab your snips and let's clip the corners. We're gonna clip the corners so that way when we turn it right side out, it's not gonna be as bulky where the corners are. Let's go ahead and clip on an angle, and sometimes I also like to clip on another angle. So that way there's really no fabric around where the corner is. It's really important to clip these corners because we have all this bulky insulite in here as well. So we don't want our corners looking funky. Also be really careful to make sure you do not clip into your stitching. Otherwise your pot holder is gonna fall apart. Now that we have our corners clipped, we are ready to turn this right side out. Now grab your pot holder and open it up where you have the two right sides together of your cotton. And then take it and push it out through that opening. Go ahead and poke your corners out. You're gonna notice how nice they turn out because we clipped those corners. And now you'll notice how nice these edges turn under where our opening is because we did those nice right angles at the opening. Right now is a great time to go ahead and press this, get it nice and crisp so that way when we draw on the lines for our quilting, it's going to look beautiful. Now grab your ruler and your marking pen so that way we can draw on the lines that we're going to be sewing so that way it turns out perfect. And when I say marking pen, I mean whatever chalk or marking tool you like to use on your fabric. The one I'm using is heat soluble, so even though it looks like an actual ink pen, it is not. So make sure you're not using an actual ink pen on your fabric. That will be a disaster for your sewing machine, your iron, everything. No good. So make sure you're using your chalk pen, water soluble, heat soluble. Just make sure you're using the right kind of pen. Okay, so I have my pot holder nice and ironed. You'll notice that my opening here looks nice and pressed, so that's ready to go when we do our edge stitch. So right now I want to go ahead and draw my lines on. The first thing I'm going to do is draw a line from point to point. The marking pen I'm using is heat soluble, so it's going to disappear when I hit it with the iron. So now I'm going to go ahead and make 1-inch lines out from the center. So go ahead and line up your quilting ruler with the 1 inch you already have there. Draw another line. And then keep going till you get to the edge of your hot pad. Your hot pad could be a little bigger than mine, it could be a little smaller. So just keep drawing your lines. So I have one side done, and now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. So now I have all the marks on my hot pad and I'm ready to start sewing. I have the marks I want for my quilting. You can obviously make any type of design here you want. You could free motion quilt it. You could put the lines going the opposite way as well, so you kind of end up with a cross pattern. You could embroider a heart on it with quilting. You could do so many different things, but I'm just gonna keep these simple diagonal lines. You also do not have to do any extra lines of stitching. You could just leave it like this and just do your edge stitch and top stitch around the outside. So it is up to you for your creativity on what you want it to look like. But before we stitch down our quilting lines, we want to make sure we do an edge stitch all the way around our pot holder, so that way we're closing up this hole that we have here. You could also hand stitch this shut if you like. So I'm ready to do my edge stitch, and I'm going to line up the first right angle inside of my A foot with the edge of my fabric. I'm gonna make sure I back stitch and then move forward. When you get to this opening, make sure it's lined up nice. When you get to the corner, make sure you leave your needle in the fabric and turn. Now I have the edge stitch all complete. It looks great. It's keeping it all together. And now we're ready to go ahead and do the diagonal lines. And when I do this, I'm gonna start at the center and work my way out to both sides. Okay, let's start quilting. When I get to the end, I'm gonna do 2 little back stitches. And cut. Now we're gonna go ahead and repeat this process across the rest of our lines. Voila, and we are finished. So we finished quilting up the pineapple pot holder. So cute, I'm loving it. So you can still see these dark lines on it. So we're gonna go over to the iron and I'm gonna show you how they disappear. It's so cool, it's like magic. So now you see the lines, and once we iron it, they're going to disappear. Look at that, they are gone instantly. Coolest marking pen ever. The pot holder is finished and it looks awesome. I kind of want to make 100 of these and give them out as gifts for holiday. These are super fun. I think it would be cool to make a really big one too. Or why don't we make one so big that it covers the entire table? Or not, but you know, it's a cool idea. So if you have any questions on this project, you can leave it down below in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You might be wondering, why doesn't this pot holder have a loop? Well, I feel like I never ever used the loop on the pot holder, so I did not put one on here. You can totally add one though, very, very easy. So feel free to add a loop to your pot holder if you feel like it needs one. Thanks so much for watching Sew Anastasia today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Sew Anastasia and Anastasia Chatzka. Also, I would love to see your creative projects, so make sure you tag me in them and DM them to me so that way I can share your creativity with everybody else through my stories. And if you're in Chicago, stop on into the studio and take a sewing class with me. Or I'm now doing virtual sewing lessons, so you can choose your project, book your time with me, and I will help you virtually from my design studio to your sewing room. If you'd like to help support Sew Anastasia, you can hop on over to Patreon or give this video an applause. And the applause button's gonna be right below the video next to the thumbs up. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when all of the new videos come out. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.